You built a business people love, but behind the scenes, it's all on you. Vision to Grow is your space to lead with clarity, hire with purpose, and finally breathe again. I'm Chrissy, your no fluff leadership expert, here to help you hire better and lead teams with less mess. Hello and welcome back to the Vision to Grow podcast. I'm Chrissy, and as always, I'm so excited to have you here today. I think I say that every time because it's true. I love recording my podcast and I love speaking. That all ties into today's episode. So just a reminder that Grow Advantage is the podcast for rapidly scaling service-based businesses. And I am a massive believer in CEOs in small business doing exactly what it is that lights them up. If you do a job that you love, if you design a business around that, that will show. And that is so prevalent in today's episode and why I love podcasting, why I love speaking. So if you've been here for a while, you know I'm obsessed with the idea that your system should serve your life and not the other way around. And that this year, that belief of mine got tested for me in my own business. Because at the start of 2025, I wrote one word on my whiteboard and in my vision book. So I do, I'm massively into mindset work. Yes, I talk all the things strategy. I'm a believer that you've got to do the mindset work. You've got to figure out what it is that you want, continuously work on that place, and then take action. I'm a massive action taker. I think that's pretty fair. I think that's how all my coaches would describe me. And one of the big things on my heart for 2025 was speaking and all facets of the word speaking. So guesting on podcasts. Obviously, I relaunched my podcast this year because I'm so passionate about it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means to me. I also do the vision boarding. I have worked with the amazing mindset coach, Brianna May, for quite some time. I went back into her Level Up Your Life program and I was like, speaking, what would future me do? She wants to speak, so what are the things that she would do? So I'm going to talk about that in today's episode. But how this is applicable to you is if you want to be speaking as a part of your role and you want to be writing a book or you want to be known as a content creator or an influencer, but you cannot because you are still delivering everything in your business. That is where this is all going to tie in today, because I want you to have the thing that you want. I want you to have the CEO role that you love and be in the face of your business and winning clients by being an incredible speaker in your niche. So that's sort of where we're coming from today. And when I started to say speak, when I put the word speak on my boards in front of my desk, when I had the podcast mic on my desk before I was even doing the podcast, it was still a bit scary. It wasn't that I couldn't do it, that I didn't believe in myself as a speaker, but what terrified me was the amount of work I already had on my plate, right? So I've got 2 kids, I'm a single mom, client work was busy. Honestly, the delivery was still going through me already, although I had team and I had 2 VAs, but I had no time to myself. So I wanted to speak and my life did look a bit differently when I set out these goals and I joined Toastmasters, I did all the things, but I could feel this version of me knocking, the version that wasn't buried in delivery, wasn't buried in admin, and I desperately wanted to work towards it, to become that woman who talks, shows up in the room, on her socials, in other people's masterminds. I consider talking like my client meetings, one-to-one, speaking to them, talking to them, educating them. I'm really passionate about that. I love to learn, but if I'm just doing the delivery and doing admin and the follow-up from the meetings, how was I going to have time for this? So I decided if I'm going to help visionary women build the freedom to be who they're meant to be, I needed to become that example and do it myself. So in this episode, we're going to cover off walking towards that CEO version of who you want to be, and then what support you need to get there. Now, in terms of where I'm coming from with speaking and why I'm talking about speaking is I've always loved speaking. So I love being in the room where you can feel the energy shift. I actually like getting up on the stage. I love that physical connection of being in the room with someone. I love this too. But the moment when you physically see something you're saying land with someone and knowing that you can make a difference with your skill set, I think is so incredibly powerful. So I'd done speaking before years ago, but after I got into the thick of building my business and doing all the things, it just felt like it was moving a little bit further away from me. So I have absolutely guested in masterminds before. I've recorded modules for other people's masterminds. I've become quite well perceived as someone who understands hiring in teams, but I wanted to do it more. And I really wanted it to be like a service that I offered where I'd speak at workshops and I would go to keynotes. And I've had to bury that dream for a little while because of what has been going on in the business. Essentially, I wanted to build the initial part of the business, the bit that brings in the recurring revenue, that builds team, because that's also on my heart and my values. But when I went back into that mindset course, so back into Level Up Your Life, I've done it before and I did it at the start of the year. And I wrote in my journal, future me speaks. She has a mic in her hand. She runs workshops. She's confident. She's calm and she's grounded. Again, I like speaking, so I'm not saying that I'm the best speaker in the world, but I speak with passion and I speak about what I know about. And I enjoy speaking over writing, for example. That's why I'm more of a podcaster than a blogger. So that night when I was in the thick of Level Up Your Life, I made a vision board. I stuck microphones all over it and I really thought about that. And that actual image on my vision board, it's behind someone's head. They're stood on a podium and they've got a room full of people, because it's not really about me. It's about the other people in the room. That is what feels so magical for me. And I really didn't know at that point how I was going to get there, but I knew that version of me already existed. And I just had to build the infrastructure to let her step out of, from behind her desk and into the room. As a service-based business owner, here's the thing. No one tells you your next level will not fit in with your current capacity. You can't become the speaker, the writer, or the leader while you're still being the operator in your business. There were days this year where I thought, who am I kidding? I can't even breathe, let alone take time out of my business to do speaking gigs. But the truth is, the moment you stop trying to do it all alone is the moment that things start to move in your business. The impossible things become possible when you stop carrying all the load yourself. When it feels impossible, that is your cue to build support, to build systems, and to not give up on your dreams. That's what I want for you. I want you to have the CEO role that you want, not what you think you should be doing. And yes, in the first few years of business, we're hustling, we're doing all of the things, but that is not going to continue if you want to scale and if you really want to make the impact that I know you want to do. So one of the first steps I took on this journey towards becoming a speaker was I joined Toastmasters. I booked in a podcast coach and I relaunched my podcast, right? These were all things that I was in control. These were not decisions other people needed to make. These were decisions I could make myself. And I started saying out loud, I'm a speaker. I started building a speaking page on my website, even though I hadn't been doing speaking for quite some time, because I genuinely believed that was possible for me. And slowly it started to take shape. I was guesting on other people's podcasts. I had my own podcast. So I had this podcast where now about 7-8 months after it relaunched. And I was running presentations in other side of people's masterminds and doing live master classes myself. And the universe was saying to me, keep going. But behind the scenes, I was still really busy being in the business. So from January to July, I was still doing all of the things in my business. So the client strategy, the delivery, my inboxes, my calls, all of it. And I had help, I had amazing VAs, but my service at the time was structured so that they were just me. So it was my VIP days, my strategy days, and I still have them. I have them less now because that's not the main service we provide. And at the time I kept telling myself, keep your business simple, it's fine. You've got amazing experience. Your clients love coming to strategy sessions with you. They love doing VIP day with you. And I kept telling myself, because of what was going on externally in my life, keep this business simple. Just do that one-on-one consulting for now. But I was suppressing myself on what I really wanted. I say this all the time. I never wanted to do business alone. I love having a team. I love having a model where multiple members of my team serve my clients, because it shows off the other thing that I'm good at is hiring amazing people and looking after them. And I wanted to build a reoccurring revenue model that created stability for me so that I could show up without worrying about when the next client was coming through, and then simply focus on building more impact. And this came up really, really big for me when I went home to the UK in July. These feelings hit me like a wave. You know, I was with my family. I was feeling really myself. People who knew me, people who knew this little girl that before she went through a horrendous separation used to be super confident and speak and show up so authentically. And being with my family, like back into my foundations, my roots, my origins, I remember sitting with my family and thinking, I didn't build my business to be small. I didn't build it just to do one-on-one sessions and then get nice reviews and then them go on their merry way. I wanted to create something that ran, whether I was on a plane, on a stage, or just being mum to my kids, because I want that for you too. And I want that for my team. This is massively in line with my values. So the real reason I could finally step into my CEO role and speak wasn't because I hustled harder. It's because I built the structure and a team that could hold me. I hired senior staff in Australia. So I hired an integrator. And when they came in, they took what was in my hand and turned it into a machine. I didn't have everything perfect before I hired a team. I trusted the process that I would hire experts and they would build for me. We've systemized everything in our business. We're still systemizing. It's called continuous improvement for a reason. We keep continuing to improve, but we systemize our client delivery. We put in elevated project management tools. I'm working on meeting cadences for my clients and for myself and all of the workflows. And for the first time in quite a long time, well, in this iteration of the business ran without me. And that's the day my future self finally had the space to exist. So without that support, I couldn't get up there and speak. Freedom for me is not doing more. It's building what can hold you. So if I'm working Monday to Friday at my desk, how can I speak? There's no time left and there's no space left. And once I got really laser focused on what I wanted, how I would show up for my clients, what section of that service I would show up for, our business exploded. We brought in our fractional integrator and operations model, and we talked to our existing clients about it, and it was like a heck yes for them. The clients started flowing in, and I wasn't even marketing that heavily. That started in September. I think this podcast ep is going to drop at the end of November. So my business was doing great before, but it was one-to-ones, and it was causing me stress because I was getting good results, but driving for feeling like I was starting from zero every month. And that wouldn't be the model that I recommended to my clients. So why was I doing it myself? And then I couldn't layer on any projects, and I've got clients like that too. They've got service-based, done for you services, but they also want to bring in like a done with you masterclass or a program, but they can't because they're so in the weeds of their business. It's like what was happening to me was exactly what I tell my clients not to do on the model that we get them out of. And the thing is, it wasn't just about systems. It was having systems that suited me. It wasn't going to business coaching and stealing what they had to say. It was really thinking about, well, this is the tech that we've put in and we chose that for a reason. And how do we level it up? And how do I delegate? How do I systemize everything in my business? And then I started showing up differently and people noticed because I had the freedom to show up more authentically on my socials and become more myself. I spent so long helping other women become the visionary in their business. And now I was finally walking that path myself. Now I talk about visionary and integrator. I still believe I'm heavily integrator. I'm not creative in a traditional sense, but because I've been doing what I've been doing for so long now, talking about it feels second nature. So I do need to step into that face of the business role because it isn't just me anymore. I have a team, but if I'm bogged down doing all of the things, how can I show up and talk and be spending time making reels and spending time making podcasts and speaking because I feel freaking exhausted. You can't do everything, nor should you. And then the amazing thing happened that was without a designated web page, because I was doing those things, right? So we're going back a little bit earlier in the podcast, but I'd done the visioning. I'd said, right, I'm going to speak. I started going to Toastmasters. I started showing up more. I also did a series of free voluntary speaking. So there was a local organization here and they reached out to me and they said, hey, we look for speakers to come in and help volunteer coordinators for charities, share their gifts, It's not paid, unfortunately, but we will recommend you in the future. And I was like, great, it's more speaking, it's more practice. You know, I can show up. And then when I did that free masterclass and, you know, was me, showed up, served, a woman in that masterclass was in the room. And that masterclass was about attraction in the hiring process, and particularly for volunteers. And this really lands for her. And then this woman, she works for a huge organization called Hammond Care, which are one of the biggest care providers in New South Wales. And then just to give you a bit of a scope of the size of this organization, they've got dozens of care facilities across Australia, but they also provide in-home care. And Tanya, the lady who was in this room, she was a senior volunteer coordinator, and they were in the process of organising their offsite for all of their volunteer coordinators. Now, there's 32 volunteer coordinators for this organisation because it's massive. They also have a recruitment team, and obviously they have, you know, managers and all of the things in that business. So she actually reached out to me and booked a call and said, at Hammond Care, we're running our annual offsite for 32 volunteer coordinators. Would you come and speak at it? We have a budget. We're going to book in speakers. Would you come and do it? And I said, yes, like, of course I can. You know, we worked through it. And I did a lot of work with this organization. Again, it was new to me, not speaking. Like, I spoke in corporate so much. I crafted workshops, and, you know, I worked with Hammond Care on this workshop and what they needed and what my skills were. And the workshop was about attraction in the process of hiring for volunteers. You know, where are these volunteers falling out? But really, it was a really beautiful workshop in that we leaned heavily into storytelling and connection, because obviously if you're hiring a volunteer, they're not getting paid, right? So they need to completely fall in love with that organization and the purpose and the mission and what we're doing. And goodness, that day, you know, when I arrived, the room was filled with women who deeply cared about what they did. You know, coordinators, advocates, carers, really caring, really beautiful people who sought to make a difference. And I spoke in the room about leadership attraction, and about even in volunteer work, we don't recruit in a traditional sense. We need to attract through storytelling, through purpose, and through heart. And I got up at the start of this workshop and I shared my story. I was super vulnerable. So I told 2 stories to build connection. And because, you know, that was the whole purpose of this workshop. So the first one I told about was a family story of mine about dementia. So they do a lot of relief for patients with all different stages of dementia and support their families. So I talked about that. And then I also got really vulnerable about my story of why I became a business owner, my journey of becoming a single mom, leaving a really difficult relationship, and what it means to me to speak, to share my gifts with a room full of women, to support these causes, because I can't do that. I'm not a carer. I'm not trained in that. I mean, I could, or I could have impact by sharing hiring tips, making those processes smooth for them so they can bring in more amazing people to their business to serve their clients. And that felt really powerful to be a part of that. And by the end of the day, the women had really, really leaned in. You know, when I got vulnerable, when I spoke, the energy in the room shifted. I told them how much I cared, how much I wanted to be there. And it was so true. And by the end of that workshop, the women were standing up. They were sharing their stories. There was tears. There was cheering. And a lot of these women, you know, they might have spoken via email, but they've not met. So the connection, the energy in that room was so powerful. It was part speaking, part workshop, part facilitation, part coaching. And it was such a magical day. And I honestly talked on my socials about how privileged I felt to know that that was a part of my job now. So that day I presented the most heart-led and heartfelt workshop. And I truly, truly realized I don't want to be the fixer in my business anymore. You know, I can't do all of the things. And I have spent too much time being the one to hold it all together. And as I said before, there is always a time in your business where that needs to be the case. But does it need to be that way forever? No. I'm not here to fix anymore. I'm here to speak, and I'm here to seek out the version of CEO that I want to be. I want to seek impact. I want to seek that connection. I want to seek rooms like the one that I was in, rooms where people leave lighter and braver than they arrived. And that is only possible because my business systems and team hold my business, hold my clients while I go and do it. You can't be the seeker if you're always the fixer. So you can't go and do all of the things that you want to do that are layered on to your basic services if you are still deeply ingrained in every element of your business. When I came home from that speaking gig and back to my desk, I had a team meeting and I told my team all about it. And I said, what you are doing allows me to do this. This beautiful company where they are literally serving, caring, and I got to go and help them. And I said to my team, because you do the work with the clients, I get to go and do this. We get to do this. We get to make this impact. Because yes, we're an operations agency, but look at who we support. We support businesses who are driving social change, mental health advocacy, nutrition and aged care, domestic violence prevention, Indigenous relations. I'm so proud of our clients. Our clients are making a difference. They are women coaching other women to have better lives, who are doing incredible things. And when our clients shine, we shine. And that is the impact of solid operations. It's not administration, it's amplification. My team are the team behind me that allow me to go and speak, but we are also the team behind some incredible visionary clients. And I am so damn proud of that. So if you're listening to this and you know you're meant for more, maybe you want to write a book, maybe you want to stand on stage, you want to launch your program, or finally get on the damn stage and speak, I need you to hear this. You can't expand while you're still the one holding everything together. Support isn't weakness, it is the strategy. And if you're ready to build a structure that holds you, then come and speak to me. Come and say hello over Instagram, or if you're not following me, make sure you are. I'm at Chrissy L_. So CHRISSY and then ELLE, think like L Woods. But come and say hello. Like, I love nothing more than a chat. I honestly love hearing feedback from the podcast. I love speaking, but I hope you love listening to it. And if you are ready to step into your CEO era and build the support around you and work on that continuous improvement so you can get out of the weeds of your business, book in a sanity call. Because I want you to finally start stepping towards doing the work that you were made for. Because the world doesn't need more women doing it all. It needs more women doing what they were born to do. I hope this episode resonated with you. It was amazing to record it and share. And I want you to take away from it that hold that vision, understand what it is that you want and how you can make an impact, and then get support. And if you want to supercharge that, speak to me, listen to this podcast. You'll get so many tips on how to build that support structure. But the world needs more of you and what you do. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
Audience exclusive.